help each man be a better man with the kindness that you give. And I know we can make it.
I know that we can.
I know done well we can work it out.
Oh, yes, we can. I know we can. Yes, we can. And why can't we if we want to? Yes, we can.
When we have family or friends who reach 100 years old, we're hungry to hear their stories. What great moments did they witness? What remarkable changes have they lived through? What are the great truths they've learned? In our 100 years, the Greater New Orleans Foundation has faced many obstacles. In our first decade alone, our organization, which began in 1923 as the Community Chest, faced the Great Flood of 1927, our first disaster response effort. And then the Great Depression, when our funds were frozen along with bank assets nationwide. How do you raise money from a community with so many who are out of work? Well, we showed up for each other and managed to raise $500,000, tens of thousands of which came from individuals donating a single dollar. During World War II, we hosted the United Community and War Chest, raising and administering over $6 million during the war. Through the years, we've had to adapt to monumental changes, depressions, hurricanes, wars, technological advances. We constantly adapted, finding new ways to grow our fundraising, annual giving, number of partner charities, and the communities we served. In 1983, we shifted our model from a community chest to a community foundation, holding our region's philanthropic assets, including planned gifts, endowments, and donor-advised funds.
My first involvement with the Greater New Orleans Foundation was I was invited to a meeting hosted by Boat O'Reilly, where Fred Starr spoke about setting up a community foundation here in New Orleans. And in 1984, my family set up the first Epstein Family Fund. When I was chairman of the board of the Greater New Orleans Foundation, I had just completed my tenure on the United Way board and went from a nice office to a broom closet. And then we graduated to something that looked like a shoebox. You know, the transition was a little bumpy, but when we got our feet on the ground, it all came together.
In the mid-90s, the Greater New Orleans Foundation was one of a few foundations nationally that were really looking at what are the intersections in communities that make the space safer, healthier, and more opportunistic for people who live there. And so the foundation did quite a bit of work to invest our staff's time, the goodwill of our donors and our board members, and to encourage and leverage dollars from other local, regional, and national funders to put into something that will end up in the whole community benefiting.
We've offered steady support through the greatest challenges of our time, and we began spearheading important civic projects, like building affordable housing after Hurricane Katrina, to building a job-creating biodistrict today.
The Greater New Orleans Foundation played a critical role post-Katrina. We were the entity that brought the community together to decide what are the next steps, how do we heal, where do we heal, what are the answers?
I think if Knopf did not exist when Katrina hit in August of 2005, the city would be much further behind in its recovery 18 years later. Knopf's ability to act as an honest broker in some pretty difficult and divisive discussions and help structure the UNOP planning process allowed people to be able to come back and rebuild in the neighborhoods in which they had grown up, in which their families had lived, and to bring people together.
Since 2014, Give NOLA Day, our 24-hour online giving initiative, has brought in over $57 million in funding for the nonprofits of our region.
I was blown away by what has happened in the last few years with Give NOLA. It just shows you that if you give individuals an opportunity to participate, they will.
We also strengthen nonprofits by supporting them with grants and training.
This is one of the many purposes of a community foundation, to give them that leadership experience, the training for their staff, for their board, so that they can become a viable entity in the community and give back and fulfill their passion.
Championing charitable giving has always been our North Star. Our history is full of stories of how we've changed and grown in our first 100 years. And yet, as we reflect on our rich history, there's one thing that's held steady and unchanging from our first year to our 100. It's our great truth. We give.
Every great city needs a very strong community foundation. Community foundations such as the Greater New Orleans Foundation brings people together of all different backgrounds to take a look at the issues that are facing a community and find solutions. Also, a community foundation inspires and motivates people to become philanthropists and donate to causes that touch them the most.
Leah Chase once told me that philanthropy is everybody doing what they can, giving what they can to make a difference. She said, even the teeniest gift of generosity can ignite great change. While we won't be here to see the Southeast Louisiana of 100 years from now, if we follow Miss Leah's advice and stay true to our purpose, we can inspire people for generations to come to keep giving generously to help our communities become more economically and culturally vibrant, healthier, better educated, stronger, and more just for all of us. Together, we can and we will ignite that giving and that great change.